Alright, so welcome to the InDesign review slash assignment details for the midterm. First thing you need to know about InDesign is that it is not really for making things, right? This header I have in here, that came from Illustrator. I kind of made these buttons, but they're really terrible looking. And I just typed this in here, right? So it's not for making stuff, it's for bringing stuff in from other places. People will use this to make books and documents, things like that. We're actually using it to organize our thoughts on how we want our final to go, how we want our final website to look. All right. The second thing to understand is that when you put stuff in here, this isn't like Photoshop where, oh, you took a picture over here and then you copy pasted it and it is in the file. This item right here is actually just being linked to. And I actually don't have the image, which is why there's a big giant question mark, because InDesign is like, we remember the preview, but we don't have the original image, which is why it kind of looks all crummy. So I would need to make sure that I have, this image with me along with my InDesign file. So any images you link to need to be in the same folder as your InDesign file. All right, so, and also, we can bring stuff in that we made in Illustrator, but the problem is InDesign, even if it could bring in an Illustrator file, is just going to look at all three of these and glump them together. So what we need to do is I need to separate out this one artboard from the other two. And the process is the same no matter which artboard you're using. So we've got artboards 1, 2, and 3. I've labeled them header, business card, and icon so I could know precisely which was which. And instead of, saving or something, we're going to do File, Export. What this is going to do is it's going to create a graphic. In our case, save as type, we're going to select a PNG. And it's going to flatten everything. It's going to turn it into a bitmap. We'll go over why that matters in a second. But I'm going to say use artboards. And instead of all, I'm going to say range of 1. Meaning only export one of the artboards, in this case the first one. If I wanted just my business card, maybe to put into a printing program, then I would take just artboard 2. So on and so forth. Right, so I'm actually just going to call it my name. I don't need to call it header because they're going to, the file is going to be named automatically with whatever the name of that artboard is as a tag on it. So I hit export, and I say, let's see, resolution, you can set to as high as you need to, and I usually put it pretty high. And then background color, I'm going to say white, because I don't want any transparency on this. I meant this to be a white background, and so I'm going to hit OK. And we give it a second. And now I go back into InDesign, and I would be able to import that, or place that, I should say, anywhere in InDesign. But first we're going to have to start with a clean slate, because this is no good. So I'm going to go File, New, Document. Now for your midterm you need the following options. Under Intent, instead of Print, which gives you all sorts of options for printing books, meaning facing pages and all sorts of crazy, orientation as portrait, we want to choose Web. And that's going to switch a lot of these things around so that we don't actually have to worry about them. It does a lot of the work for us. We need to change the number of pages. Everyone's going to have 4 pages. They may vary slightly on what they do. And we're going to go with the highest basic setting that they have, 1280 by 800. And hit OK. There we go. And we have 4 pages. By the way, you won't actually be working on them unless you double click, right? So if you look really closely, this is in my Pages tab, by the way, which is over here in case yours isn't up. If you look really closely, if you only single click on something, the number of the other page you were on before is still going to be selected. But if I double click on this, now the one is selected. It's very hard to see. You probably won't see it in this video, but it is there. All right, and So we got pages 1, 2, 3, and 4. Generally speaking, page 1 has been the home page, page 2 has been the bio, page 3 has been the gallery, page 4 has been contact. You do not have to stick to that, but it is what I'm doing because it is what a lot of people were doing. All right, but now my header, this part up here and all of my buttons, I actually want them to be on all of the pages, right? You want them on the home page, you want them on the bio, you want them on the gallery, etc. And no one wants to have to do that over and over and over again and make sure they all match. So, on my new one, I'm going to double click where it says master. And what this means is anything that's on this master page will exist on all of the pages. It'll just keep going and going and going. There's ways you can code it so that there's always a page number at the bottom. There's various things you can do, but in this case, I want all my pages to have that header, and I want all my pages to have any menu buttons that I put in. All right. So I'm going to say File, Place. I'm not even going to create a box to put it in. It'll just make one on its own. Go to my desktop, look through my millions of things that I have here for one that says Benvenuto header. Haha, PNG. All right, and we hit open. And it looks like this. You kind of got to just click and it'll place it. Now you can and move it afterwards, so don't worry if it, oh my gosh, didn't get to exactly where you wanted. Right? Now, these margins, if you have a header that has, like a background color to it, you can go past these margins. They're not crop margins. They're not, oh no, don't go past it. They're more like safe margins for, text and things like that. Like if I stick this all the way up here, right, that just looks like I don't know what I'm doing, right? That just kind of looks like, bad design. There we go. So I want my text to be closer to that edge because I want to kind of give myself some room. Now you may be noticing that this still looks pretty terrible. There are some view settings in InDesign that you may want to change. Under view, you can go to display performance. Yeah, I have it on typical right now. I could put it on high quality and that fixes it quite a bit. There we go. That looks much nicer. In part because I put it at 300 dpi. Another thing that you are eventually going to find, though, if I zoom in just a little bit, maybe not under video, but if you were to zoom in on your stuff even just a little bit, yeah, you can see they start to break down. Even if you have it at a high quality, what can happen is two things. One, this is now a raster graphic. It's not vector, right? Illustrator is vector, meaning I can zoom in forever and ever and ever and ever, and it'll always look very, very good. That's not true of raster graphics. There's a limit to how much you can zoom in. So that's one problem. The other problem is that even if you're not zoomed in, and I am uncertain as to how... Oh, I'm at 100%. Okay. And to me, it looks slightly fuzzy. The other problem is that your monitor that you are working on, in all likelihood, unless you're on maybe a smaller laptop, your monitor has a really good resolution, right? Like, so if I go to 100%, here we go, in Illustrator, right, it can look really, really nice, even at, something larger, even if it was a raster graphic, right? It'll look really, really nice. But something like InDesign or your web browser actually has less resolution than your monitor itself. If you were to ever, if you're on the web, your Firefox or Chrome, it has a limit, 72 dpi. So, I rendered this at 300, but it's not going to look this nice when I get it in the browser. It's already getting a little crushed when it comes into InDesign. That's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. We get used to looking up at them in Illustrator, and they look perfect and amazing, and then we bring them everywhere else, and they look crummy. So, just keep that in mind as you go. You want to keep them as high quality as long as possible. That's why when I was in Illustrator, and I went to File Export, I made sure to, whatever. I made sure to choose a high resolution. I can't use 300 dpi on the web. I just can't, it won't use it. But I'm going to keep it high as long as possible just to, make sure there's no other, compressions going on. All right, so I've got my header in here. It's as nice as I can make it look. And then I need to start thinking about putting other stuff in. So, for example, buttons. Some people went and designed them in Illustrator or Photoshop. If you're not up for anything that fancy, you can always do, you can just use the text right here. And I actually saw a lot of people use, let's see here. Well, first we're going to click and drag. Whenever you want to use text, you got to kind of click and drag and give yourself a box to work in. We're going to say buyout. That's obviously way too small, so we're going to, or not. Oh, well, this is always fun. Hold, please. Okay, so while the video was paused, I actually just closed out of InDesign and went back in. Sometimes that's a solution, but because I could, just for those of you who are interested in maybe troubleshooting, it actually said 36 points here, but it wasn't visually showing up there, which means there's that feels more of a glitch to me than anything else, which means close out and go back in. All right, but I'm resizing the box that this is in. And I'm also going to tell the text somewhere in here. There we go. If I double click on it, I can tell it to center itself, right? Actually, I think I can also, let's click you here. Oh, no, I can't do that. Okay. But I can center it, and then I can kind of give it not too much room. And I can give it a fill here. If I wanted to, right? I could do something like that. In this case, though, I'm actually going to make the text itself a color and not have like a box around it. So we've selected it here. There we go. And instead of black, I'm going to make it blue. Now this color blue is sort of like web link blue. If I was actually to put an underline on this. There we go. Right? Like, that looks exactly like an old school web link. The other thing you could, of course, do is just choose a completely different color, which if you were to go down here instead of going up here, you could, I think, yeah, you can get a different set of colors. The problem is that InDesign, again, not being an art program, is not really good at choosing lots of colors, or you're not going to get your big color wheel. So best to keep it simple in here, or bring it in to somewhere else. But we'll just stay with the web link blue for now. It doesn't really go with my stuff, but hey. All right, so I've got that going. I can actually copy and paste it and change it into gallery. Now you'll see I typed in gallery, I got this bright red, plus mark. That's InDesign's way of telling you, you have text out here that you can't see. Your box needs to be bigger. Oh, why? And if it would let me select, apparently not. There we go. I'll just have to do it on this side. Gallery. There we go. So we've got the gallery there, and I can say Control C, Control V for copy paste. I can say contact. And again, not quite enough room. Whoop. If you want to type something, initially you have to be in the text box. Afterwards, you can go back to your move tool and then move things around, resize the boxes around them. It's not going to resize the text, it's only going to resize the bounding box. If you double click on the button and then start selecting text, it goes back into your text tool. So if you want to get out again, you have to click the selection tool again. You'll notice that as I'm dragging it around, there's all these guide markers coming up. You got a purple one there, green one there. Purple ones are aligning it to something on the whole document. So there we go. There's the middle of the page this way, up and down. There's the middle of the page laterally. If I do this, you see the green ones. Now it's lining it up with the gallery. I can line bio up with them too. So it's lining these three things right here up with each other. if I wanted to, I'm sure something would flash at some point with these other layers, but there we go. All right, so if I go to my Pages tab here, scroll this down, you can even see it in the preview. This is on all 4 pages, which makes your life easier. All right, now as for the content of these pages, this is going to vary from person to person. I'm going to start at the end, actually. So, your contact info. Contact info is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's going to have your name, your email address, possibly your phone number. Please do not put your actual physical address on this contact page. The internet is mean and filled with nasty people. You do not want... The only time you would ever want a physical address is if it was for a store that you wanted people to visit. If you are a contractor and you meet with clients, only give out your address to them individually and after you have met them at a neutral location. I can say with certainty that even if you are... Not only is it, protecting you, but honestly, as someone who has worked with other people, when they invite you to their home office, it's still weird. Even though they mean well and they're just professional, it can be weird. All right, so you'd have your name, not your name, your email, your phone number, possibly a little bit of a graphic or something being like, hey, it's contact. That's what I have on my website. I have like a little, swishy mail thing. Because even though I do enjoy the white space that I'm creating in my website, the contact page can be very, very empty if you don't put anything there. The other thing you can do is put, if you have your own artwork, you can always put something of your own in this corner. I've seen some people put pictures of themselves. I've seen people just put up random artwork. Alright, so that's the contact page. Oh, and by the way, if you want to maybe somehow show that you're on the contact page, it's never a bad idea. I can grab this little rectangle tool here, create a little rectangle to go around where it says contact, and what I'm going to do is, there we go, gave it a little bit of a box. So now we know which page we're on, which is helpful because even when you're navigating here, it can be sometimes hard to tell which page you're on, so now I know for sure. Let me look at how many points that was. 3 points, okay. Alright, that's the contact page. Now, the gallery page, for which I will first make a little box to go around, because I like that idea. And I made it wrong, that's okay. Alright, so the gallery page. This may not be a gallery page, depending on what it is you do. If you are a DAT student, and you have any type of artwork of your own, projects you worked on, they would go here. So we can, make a series of boxes. Or actually, that's silly. Why make more than one box when you can make just one and go copy paste, and then they will line up. There we go. And you can do something like that, right? So you would make your boxes, and then if you select one and you say place, and you search from an image, it's actually going to put the image in here. I'm going to go to some of our earlier stuff just so we can have something to work with. There we go. So I've got a couple of images in here. Again, you select the box you put in, you hit place. Let's bring the bear in. Alright. Here's the problem. Obviously, they do not fit. Exactly. So when it comes to fitting, you would right click on the box, say fitting, fit content proportionally. And what that does is it makes it so the content fits in the box within the range of it not squashing itself. If you say fit content for fill frame, let's see, fill frame, fit content to frame, right? It gets squashed. You saw fill frame proportionally means it, whatever one's the smaller one, it's going to fill it. That's not a bad way to do a thumbnail because you can actually, didn't want to move that. You can see, it's a little finicky about what you're pressing. Right now it's moving the whole thing. There we go. If I double click on it, I can move the image within that frame, and this is how you can get a thumbnail. The idea being that maybe you click on the link and a bigger picture comes up. I can tell this one, again, fit content proportionally. There we go. But whichever one you do, make sure it is proportionally. Otherwise, you get really squashed and stretched stuff. All right. Now, if you are someone who maybe has projects instead of, just like individual pictures, you can have, an image of the project and then some information on what it is type next to it. If you are someone who is not at all art oriented, as are several people in this class, you can use this as maybe a blog space, links to things you are interested in. We have one person in a health field, and she pretended sort of that she is currently a respiratory therapist, and she listed all the symptoms that someone might come see her for and what could happen from it. I've seen people list links to the various certifications they have. So there's a lot of different stuff you can do with the gallery. It doesn't necessarily mean pictures you have taken or drawn. Also, you may use placeholder images. I recommend, especially at this point, getting in, collecting your real images, but it's perfectly valid to use placeholder images for now, because a lot of people are still going through collecting their information. All right, so that's the gallery. Bio is pretty self-explanatory because it is what we did already at the beginning of the year, which is good news for you guys because it's one less thing you have to do because it's already done. So if you want to bring text in from somewhere, I have it in here somewhere. There we go. I'm going to steal it from here, but you steal it from here the same way you steal it from a Word document. You hit copy, Control C in my case. And then I'm going to make a text box. Right click, paste. There we go. Make sure when you're making the bio page, first of all, understand that this can go off the bottom because if you have done a lot of stuff, you have a really long bio, you can in fact have a bit of a scroll to your page. This doesn't allow for that yet, but it's understood that you might have it. I would make sure that your text doesn't go too far to one side or the other because that can get hard to read. And understand that, try and choose a font that seems fairly legible even if someone maybe doesn't have the best eyesight because you guys are all pretty young. Your eyesight might be much better than someone who is looking at your site. All right. And, if it's really paragraphy like this, a serifed font, that's the ones with all the little blips at the end, they create a through line which allows you to read. So my text down here is a serif. So are these technically. This is not. There's no blip. That doesn't count as a blip really. There's nothing here. There's nothing. It's just the letters. This is more to be like cursive-y. The serifs are these little things on the end of the N, the R, the top of the Y. Right. Those are serifs. This one's kind of flirting with serifs a little bit, I'd say. But, big long paragraphs, a serif font can be a good idea. Please do not use all caps. It just sounds like you're yelling at people, or it looks like you're yelling at people. Don't go too small. I've seen a lot of people put their bio, like a pic of themselves on their bio. It is a very good idea, especially if you're allergic to white space in the way I am not. So you would have, your bio over here and your picture over here, and it looks very nice. Because especially in the art community, we love self-portraits. All right, and top page is the home page. This is the one that is possibly the most open-ended because some people, because the gallery had pictures, they made it set up like a blog post. So it was, post number 1 is here and post number 2 is here. Obviously, they don't have any posts yet. Some people posted links to the things that they're interested in. Or the organizations they are involved in. So we have, someone involved in a particular regiment of the military, so they'd have the info on that, the info on the particular helicopter they work on. Or some people just say, hey, welcome to my page, you'll find blah-de-blah here. And they'd have examples of their artwork along the bottom. I'm gonna put something about it being my homepage here just so we can find it later. Welcome to my website. It's very 1998 of me to say welcome to my website, but that's okay. We just need to know that we're on the home page because their next step is going to be linking things up. All right. I don't use exclamation points. There we go. So you say whatever you want on your homepage. So we got a homepage, bio, hello, gallery, contact, and if you're better than me, you've saved more times than just never. Want to make sure we're saving all the time. And what I said about the header for images applies to this. So you need to carry all of that stuff with you if you want these things to work right. So now what to do? We need to make links because we want something that's actually interactive. That's one of the ways you test things. This is a lot easier, a lot faster than actual HTML, even if you're using a program like the one we use that does all the writing for you. But we still want to test kind of how this works. So what you do is you select the thing you want to be a link. And in this case, all my links right now are on my home page, right? Or master page, right? So you double click on that. So we single click on the thing we want to be a link and we right click. You'll notice that in InDesign, there are a lot of options with right click. And we go about 2/3 of the way down. Hyperlinks, which is what this is, new hyperlink. Now URL is the default, but we can switch it to page. And the home page, I want this whole banner to be like the button to my home page, and it says page 1. And we say okay. And that's all you do. You select the things and you say hyperlink, new hyperlink, and you say page 2 for the bio and page 3 for the gallery and so on and so forth. You can also do links to real actual websites. So if I go here, and I say click here to see my blog. Technically speaking, if I was making a website, I would only make the word here the hyperlink. I'm picky like that. If I say click here, I mean literally on the word here. But we're going to make this whole thing a link. So we're going to say hyperlinks, new hyperlink, and instead of page, we're going to say URL. And it's going to be, it's not my blog, it's just my website, stephaniebenvenuto.com. Right? And we say okay. And you can see anything with these blue dotted lines around them are hyperlinks. Right? So contact I knew wasn't done yet because it had no blue line around. Nope. Wrong link. It had no blue line around it. Go back to page. Okay. So I've got all my interactivity in. So hopefully you've spent longer than me worrying about things like layout and color selection, because this is where you kind of make your decisions on what you want the aesthetics of the site to look like. The whole point of this exercise is to make it easier later on. So first I save, because you should always save. And then we go File, Export. And what we're going to do, this should be the default, but if it is not, save as type Adobe PDF Interactive. This is a specific thing. And I'm just going to call it test video. Or actually, you know what? I should have my name on it because you guys should always, this is what you're handing in and your name should always be on it. Hit save. Just use the defaults. Okay. It's going to take a second because it's having to flatten the whole thing. And it's going to open up my unopened up on my other monitor. Right? So it's going to make an interactive PDF. Now I'm going to put this in full screen mode. Oh, just kidding. I don't think I can do full screen. Oh, there it is. All right. And you can already see this is more broken down, right? So don't worry about your PDF not having the bestest image quality. I don't expect it to. Well, if I click bio, it goes to my bio page, my nice little black box around it telling me where I am. Gallery, contact. Now you can see the black box I have around things isn't exactly the same between the three. And obviously this page is still empty and blah. So these are the kinds of things you want to work on. If I click here, it goes to my home page. And if I click here, it'll say, you know, it'll ask you for security purposes, because this is a PDF, you know, do you really want to go to a website? And the answer is yes, I do. And it opened it up here. All right. So The only other thing I would say maybe that you're going to want to include that I forgot before I exported um, is something that you want on your header, and you want it at the bottom of any website you work on. Copyright. Stephanie Benvenuto 2015. That's important because it can often having this copyright notice can deter people. People don't understand copyright, and partially it's not their fault, partially it's just people are lazy. But a lot of people think that if you don't label it copyright your name this year, that it doesn't belong to you and they can take your work and they can do whatever they want. That is obviously not true. As soon as you create something, it is yours by law. You don't even have to prove it unless someone, sues you. But this copyright logo can go a long ways towards making kind of deterring people. I've actually used that on websites before. We put a little copyright symbol, which when we get to HTML, I'll show you how to do the copyright symbol. The name of the company, copyright symbol, and on their photos. And it prevented people from taking their photos of what they were selling and passing it off as their own. Another thing you might consider doing for those of you that have lots of artwork or maybe have copyright issues. I know a couple of people were using old classical artwork, but they had to, it's owned by a particular museum. Someone took that picture, so they need to give credit to the picture that was taken of the artwork, maybe. I can actually add a new page. Oh no, I added a new master. Sorry. If I put myself on page 4, I can add a new page. And I can make a page of copyright info. Not everyone would need this, right? But I could spell out maybe, that all rights reserved. All images here are my own. Stuff like that, like spelling out, like, this is my stuff. I might say, if it doesn't say so in a particular video, I might say model provided by, so and so. Because maybe I had a model that I had pictures of, like a 3D model, and the model was made by someone else, but I made the textures to go to it. And maybe it's hard to, say that somewhere in my gallery, so I make sure I say it here, right? Because you're giving credit where credit is due. So that might be the 5th page a lot of you end up coming up with in order to deal with copyright issues. But like I said, that's not going to be typical for everybody. All right, so, and again, you make sure you save. If you do a text export like I did earlier, and then you make changes, you would have to re-export it. There's no live connection between this InDesign file and the PDF file that I had open earlier. Once you pack everything into the PDF, it's flattened. You can't move any, you can't move any of this stuff around. You can't select it, not the PDF anyways. So you need to hold on to both the InDesign file and the PDF. The PDF is what you submit for class. And make sure that you hold on to all of these other files that you have. Because if you want to use them again, you're going to need them, and they won't be saved inside the InDesign file, right? They're just linking to it. It actually says it right there. Little chain link. That's Adobe for linked file. All right, I hope this helps, and if you have any questions, please email me.